You're listening to the Wrestlebread Podcast.
Yowie wowie! With one beer, 2 beers.
Because when Austin 360 meets Pillman. Oh my God.
Tony?
Yeah.
Cut the shit.
How many red carpets you guys want to walk in your $4,000 ridiculous heels? You will never be able to lace up my Chuck Taylors.
This is your fault. This is your fault.
I didn't get mad when you stole all my moves.
Your daddy's not here anymore.
How was your movie, by the way? I missed it.
Mine went straight to DVD, just like yours.
Careful you don't hurt your neck again going through those ropes.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever.
You're listening to the Wrestlebread Podcast.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 173 of the Wrestlebread Podcast, and I am back. And as you see, I have a new intro, a new look, but we're going to continue to keep it real up in here. And a lot has happened since I last spoke with you guys, which was back in December. We had Vince McMahon, who went through this whole overnight plan of coming back as the chairman of the board for WWE, overlooking a possible sale, which Nick Khan has said on, I believe it was CNBC, that a sale should be happening a little quickly and should be happening within the next 3 months, possibly. We had Sabin McMahon, who has stepped down as co-CEO as well. We had the set up to the Royal Rumble, and now we just had the fallout of the Royal Rumble. I actually watched Impact Hard to Kill as well. I will be reviewing that a little bit later. And then we had a lot of AEW going on. We had a new look with AEW, and I do like the new look. I enjoyed the first few episodes of Dynamite so far. I know a lot of people are not fans of AEW, and that's okay. You have your reasons. Not everybody's going to like everything. There are people who don't like WWE. I like both companies. Of course, me being a WWE fan for over 30 years, I'm going to like it. They do have stories. They're, over the top and everything. But I do still like my spots. I like my dream matches. I like to kind of take a break, not really emotionally, but mentally a little bit or something like that from stories and just sit back and enjoy spots for a moment. I love all type of matches. I love my technician matches. I love the matches that make you cry, that make you pop and everything like that. But goodness gracious, I do love me a good old tag team spot fest. And dream matches too. And another thing too, that with some of these dream matches, there are some times where a dream match happens and you really can't build a storyline for it. With AEW, a lot of times they are bringing in people from different promotions, pretty much a 1 or 2 off type of situation, or maybe the person is in the country for a little bit. So you can't really give them too much of a bit of a storyline. Just give them dream matches. Maybe the wrestler wants to go against someone, for example, of course, who would love to come and wrestle Kenny Omega or Bryan Danielson or Jon Moxley or anybody like that, and then just, go back to their own promotion. So sometimes stories can't necessarily happen with AEW because they are, like I said, they're working with different people from different promotions. But when they do the story, I'm a little bit more forgiving with AEW. They're still slightly new. It's very different of working stories in the indies, stuff like that, because in the indies, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of matches are dream matches. It's not that often that you really get a continuous storyline in the indies, where with Dynamite, and even Rampage, we have week-to-week shows. It takes a while for someone to work towards building up storylines. I'm hoping that as the years continue on, that Tony Khan will be able to get people in place that will help him with the storytelling and everything, so that not that they turn into a replica of WWE, because what's the point? Like, I might as well watch WWE, but that they can have a bit of balance of both, which is what they did very well when they first started out. They had stories, but they also did the dream matches and the spot fest as well. Kind of the best of both worlds. So coming back to WWE. Actually, let me address something that I have a big issue with. So with this whole situation of Vince McMahon coming back to WWE, getting rid of people on the board and everything, the thing that pisses me off and will continue to piss me off is these so-called dirt sheets. I do not call them journalists. I've said this before. I went to college for journalism. My goal in life was to be a journalist for a newspaper here in Philly. One of the daily newspapers. I wanted to be a journalist for the daily newspaper. Once I realized, I did an internship with the newspaper, and they were talking about how, horror stories, of course, of how if there was a crime in the area and you have to talk to the victim's family, even if they don't want to talk to you. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to be able to report the news, stuff like that. But I don't want to be the person that has to go to the family who just lost someone and put a tape recorder in their face because I have to get the story or else I get fired. So I started looking into broadcasting, stuff like that. But if you listen to me long enough, I have a slight accent. I have a very weird accent, and I tend to mispronounce things, and I tend to stutter and stuff like that. So me talking in the broadcast voice wasn't working out for me. And my teacher who in college, who was actually on broadcasting, talked about how actually you have to start out in the middle of nowhere. So I was like, no, I don't want to move out of Philly. And then so I decided to do magazine. But of course, you find out that you got to do magazines. You have to go to New York. So I took a pause, aka dropped out. However, I said all this to say is that I learned enough in journalism when I went to college to know that in journalism 101 is always to check your sources. And the true thing of being a journalist, when you deliver the news, you're supposed to deliver facts and without bias. If you don't know how to do that, then in my opinion, you're not a journalist. Your platform is not a news channel. It's an op-ed, or what I would like to say, a blog. You are blogging. You are a social media, content creator, in my opinion. With some of these dirt sheets, as we all call them, they report the news with a straight bias. And it sometimes pisses me off because they have followers out there that believe that the things that they are saying is legit. And it can cause chaos, as what we have seen with the news of Vince McMahon coming back to WWE. Someone had tweeted out that they have sources that said that the deal is pretty much done, that they have to work out the details, which of course caused nothing but chaos and panic on Twitter and social media. And allegedly you had wrestlers who said they won't work for WWE no more if Saudi buys them. Because I believe I might didn't know to say it, but the person tweeted that WWE is going to be sold to Saudi and it's a done deal. They're just working out the kinks, which of course that person ended up deleting that tweet, but the chaos has already been created. A lot of people is going crazy. They were saying how they won't watch WWE no more. There was allegedly wrestlers who said that they will not be working for WWE if it goes to Saudi. People were saying, well, what's going to happen to this person? What's going to happen to this, that, and the third? A bunch of chaos that really was unnecessary because the news was not verified. And then a lot of the journalists who have insiders and have sources started saying like, no, this news is false. There is no deal that's pretty much done. They are still working on finding people who may potentially buy the company. So I went through that story to bring up to the present. There was a blogger. I'm not calling this person a journalist or a news site. I'm not even giving them the satisfaction of calling this website dirt sheets. Was called out on social media by a AEW wrestler. And I'm not going to say the quote unquote, the blog's name, I should say. They were called out because they had they ran a wrong story. And this is the second time that they were called out twice by two different people I'm sorry. One company, the blog, was called out once by a wrestler because said wrestler was wearing a shirt and the blog ran a story based on what the wrestler wore. Wrestler called out said blog and said, "This is untrue. I just wore the shirt because I wanted to wear the shirt." Said blog got pissed off, cursed out said wrestler, and then ran at least 6 stories that they wrote, talking, pretty much putting said wrestler in a bad light, including stories that they ran from 3 years ago. And then you want to sit there and say that you're news when you obviously have a straight bias. And apparently this blog does not like AEW either. So it's like, if you don't like AEW, how can we trust anything you say that comes out about AEW or even WWE? You can sit there and create whatever news off your quote unquote source and say that, hey, AEW, blah, blah, blah. And there'll be people out there who apparently, I guess, pay for your information or something like that, or follow you on social media, that will believe you because they think you are legit dirt sheet when you're just a blog. And there was another incident, and this goes back to check your sources, where there, of course, everyone knows that there are fake profiles in social media, especially nowadays with Twitter. Anybody can pay for the blue check mark. We heard it all the time of people getting scammed because they thought that they were talking to a wrestler or a celebrity and they get scammed out of money and stuff like that, or even believe that they were in a relationship with said celebrity because these fake profiles are pretending to be the actual celebrity. So on Facebook, there was I believe it was an article or something like that was put out there of Dominic comparing himself to Eddie Guerrero. And a obviously fake profile, 2 fake profiles on Facebook commented on the article. And then the blog the blogs wrote a full story about it. I bet you they didn't even click the profile picture to go check the page to see whether or not this was a legit page. And so, it had to do with Vicky Guerrero. She called out the blog, and this is a different one, and said that obviously this isn't me. And which is scary because not only did this blog wrote a full article about it, another blog that I was talking about earlier also wrote a article about it. So it's just like, we're not even checking sources about this stuff anymore. We're not even trying to verify if this is actually a thing, because these blogs and some of these dirt sheets are so concerned about being the first with the news versus being right. Because if they're not, right with the news, it's just like, oh, no harm to it. They could just sit there and say, well, I guess my source was incorrect. And it's like, no, you didn't have a fucking source from the get-go. So as you see, it pisses me off with this stuff because, and there was, with me, there was a slight discussion of whether I should be a news, but I don't have any insiders, nor will I pretend to have any insiders. And nor will I sit here and try to act like I'm a news channel or anything like that, because all I'm going to do is regurgitate things from the dirt sheets anyway. But I have a bias. I have a slight bias. I like watching WWE and AEW. There are certain wrestlers that I like, certain wrestlers that I'm not a fan of. There are promotions that I don't really watch. There are promotions that I will never watch. There are wrestlers, I have no idea who they are. There are wrestlers who I've heard of and never watch their matches. Heck, I was a big fan of WWE during the Monday Night Wars. I didn't really watch WCW like that. I know of WCW. I could tell you people who were in WCW. I knew of NWO. I saw how big NWO got. I know of some of their pay-per-views like Bash at the Beach and Halloween Havoc and stuff like that. But I'm not going to sit here and try to turn around and be like a dirt sheet or anything like that, because I have a slight bias. I can't tell the news to you correctly because I have a bias. I'll speak nothing but good when it comes to The Undertaker, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, whatnot. And I may slander a few people who I'm not the biggest fan of. So it's just very upsetting that these blogs and some of these dirt sheets care about being first versus being right. And it's causing nothing but a bunch of chaos and could go into dangerous territory. Like, what if somebody legit thought that this information was true, that Vicky Guerrero and her daughter didn't like Dominic comparing themselves to Eddie Guerrero? Like, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of crazy people out there. There are people who don't put two and two together and they just act out on things. You know, let's not forget some of the things that has happened to some wrestlers like Sonya Deville. It can get dangerous out here, and it takes nothing but the power of the word, unfortunately, nowadays, for people to just act on it without any regard, without really looking into things. They just do. So, and I feel like if you can call yourself a journalist, you should have some type of respect for what the power of your word and your writing can do. And that's why I call these certain things blogs. I mute them on Twitter, so I no longer see some of the things that they say. But of course, if, you know, someone who I follow or who follow me may speak on it, then that's when I'll see it. But I'm now in the phase of my life where I'm not really necessarily blocking people, but I'm muting people right now. I haven't muted people. I've been muting the blogs because blogs and some Twitter accounts, because I just can't. Like, I just can't. If you don't like things, you know, I don't like when people hate watch stuff. You're wasting your life right now. If you're hate watching WWE, if you watch WWE just to completely hate on it, you're wasting time. Life is too short. You're not going to get a medal from Vince McMahon, Triple H, or Tony Khan. And then there's people who hate watch AEW, which makes no sense to me. I'm like, WWE puts on at least 10 hours of wrestling every single week, and they have the WWE library on Peacock. Like, if you can't get enough of wrestling, just go and just watch everything on the Peacock. It'll take you probably like 50 years to go through everything. So, and I just don't understand it. So I've been muting people. Like, if you do nothing but hate watch and you just, you know, tweet and smash your keyboard about it, like, I just can't. I'm at the point of my life where I just don't feel for it right now. So if you want me to see your stuff and you tend to hate watch, I'm not going to see your stuff. I haven't gotten to the level of blocking people yet because I'm not that famous, so people aren't going to notice that I'm muting them, nor am I going to get like tagged or anything like that. So I just been muting people. So let's get into some wrestling after this long ass rant, shall we? So before I get into the Royal Rumble, I did check out, like I said earlier, Hard to Kill, the pay-per-view from Impact, which took place on Friday the 13th. I haven't really watched Impact truthfully consistently, I should say, since the pandemic, when they had Wrestler's House and stuff like that. And I was watching it on a weekly basis when it was on I think it was on Twitch. Brian Cage was there at that point. So I was watching it back then. And it just wasn't really clicking for me. And I eventually fell off of it. Especially when I really started putting more attention to WWE and AEW anyway. So I decided to give this pay-per-view a try. Truthfully, the Hubs was like, hey, you should check out Hard to Kill and, you know, talk about it for a bit. So I made a deal with him that I will check out Impact Hard to Kill and like actually watch it and actually give my actual opinion on it. So I did check out Impact Hard to Kill. I had some issues with it. The production value of Impact really needs improvement, There were a lot of audio issues during the pre-show. There were a lot of issues with the camera shots during some of the matches where the camera really wasn't getting the best of angles. An example would be for the world title match where Bully Ray there was a table that Bully Ray had leaned up against the ring, and for some reason the cameraman had the camera on the other side where Bully Ray was pretty much behind the table and you couldn't really see what was going on. So that was my issue with it. But I'm going to go through the matches here. I did check out the pre-show. So I'm starting out with this six-man match with Kushida, Angels, Delirious, Mike Bailey, Mike Jackson, and Yuya Uemura, I believe the name is pronounced. First of all, Mike Jackson is out here 73 years old, and God bless people who are able to really wrestle once they are in their 50s. First of all, a quick story. I go to the gym. So I've been going to the gym to work out, to lose weight. And I call myself getting hyped because I didn't go to the gym for like 2 weeks. You know how you get hyped and you feel like you can still do the things that you did before you took a break. Went on the leg squat, did the leg press, I should say. Did the leg press, put a little bit too much weight on. I shouldn't have did the weights that I was doing when I was going consistently because that's what I did. And yeah, my knee was killing me for a week. It scared me. It scared me a little because it went to the point where I had to stop when I was at home. I put some ice on and stuff like that. It took me at least a week for my knee to not really stop hurting because it was like on and off. Like I was praying that I didn't tear anything, but I didn't. My knee is completely healed. I think I just bruised it or something. But if I sleep on the bed incorrectly, I can wake up with pain in my neck. And this dude is out here wrestling with people more than half his age. We had Mike Jackson who did the old school while holding Angel's hand. I applaud for him. I really did. We also had, and then as we get towards the end of the match, we had Kenny King who came back and he shoved Mike Bailey off the top of the rope, and he gave a interview a little bit later, and he said that he did it because his therapist told him that she didn't think Bailey was taking him seriously. I was like, hey, therapists are a good thing. Sometimes they will let us know what we are not seeing. So apparently his therapist told him, you know what's wrong with you? Mike Bailey is not taking you seriously. And I think, well, actually, she probably would say, Mike Bailey isn't taking you seriously. How does that make you feel? And then he decided, you know what? It makes me feel like I need to beat his ass. And that's what Kenny King did. We also had Kushida, who got the win. He did the hoverboard lock on Angels, and Angels had tapped out. This match was kind of quick, but still props to Mike Jackson for what he did in this match. We also had Trey Miguel going against Black Taurus. I'm a fan of Black Taurus now. I thought he has such a cool look. I do like the X Division, the X Division in Impact / TNA. When I used to check out TNA a little bit here and there, especially when they had the X Division going on, and I loved it. So this was a good match between these two. The ending I thought was pretty unique. Apparently I had read somewhere on social media that they kind of did something like this before, but the Miguel had took out one of the spray paints. The referee spotted it, took it from him, and then Miguel pulled out a second can of spray paint and then sprayed Taurus, and then he got the pin from there. I like Trey Miguel. I remember Trey Miguel when he was in the Rascals, along with Wesley and Nash Carter, I think his name was, when they were all in Impact together. So as soon as I saw Trey Miguel, I was like, okay, this match is going to be good. But this is the first time that I've seen Black Taurus wrestle, at least that I remember. If he was wrestling with Impact back during the pandemic days, it completely erased from my mind. So starting off the pay-per-view, there was a 10-bell salute for former Impact Don West. It was a very emotional moment for everyone. The crowd was chanting for him and everything. And of course, my thoughts and prayers and condolences goes out to his family as well. We started out the pay-per-view with the world title, which I'm like, whoa, is Brock Lesnar wrestling here? Because we got the world title coming out first, which I figured, they probably had this opening because we have the Mickie James title versus career, which I figured would be the main event. So with this match, it was a lot of blood. I'm sure Jon Moxley was jealous of this. There was a lot of interferences. We had Tommy Dreamer who came out, who was friends with Bully Ray. Now he's no longer friends with Bully Ray, and Bully Ray put him through a table and everything. We had Bully Ray who pretty much whooped Josh Alexander's ass at a certain point. And I believe he zip tied him to the rope, or it was handcuffs. I forgot which one it was. But I think it was zip ties actually, because I think they were cut at the end. He was going to hit him with, I believe it was a trash can. So here's the thing that I always find interesting with Impact. The crowd reminds me, if you ever watch AEW Dark or Elevation, it can get very quiet with Dark or Elevation when they're at Universal Studios, for example. And that's how quiet it was at certain points for this pay-per-view. And the crowd is quiet to the point where you can hear individual hecklers, and not only you can hear them individually, but you can hear every single word that they're saying. Now, you sometimes do get that in AEW and even in WWE, but you can really hear it a lot with Impact. And it's not because people are people are conversating, with wrestling, with WWE, for example. You always hear people conversating or cheering or something like that. There's not really that many times where the crowd is dead silent. And so you kind of had that here. Even with NXT, especially Black and Gold, the crowd wasn't completely silent to where as though you could always hear the hecklers and everything. But if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But anyway, with this match though, the biggest thing was when Bully Ray was about to hit Josh Alexander, I believe with a trash can or something like that. You hear someone screaming something da 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 da, and come to find out it was Josh Alexander's wife. I guess they were mentioning that she was supposed to be at home because Bully Ray tried to attack her or whatnot, and so you hear her and she's coming down the steps to save her husband. And I thought it was kind of funny that you can clearly hear that it was her, because all you heard was it sounded like a chihuahua at a certain point. So she gets into the ring and she starts telling off Bully Ray, who has a garbage can, trash can in his hand, by the way. So she starts telling him off and stuff like that. So of course then he threatens to hit her with said chair. And she's like, no, don't hit me with a chair. Don't do it. I wasn't ready. And so he's telling her, get on your knees and beg and stuff like that. And so she gets down and everything. She's begging to not hit her with the trash can. And Bully Ray starts talking trash to Josh Alexander. And then she goes in for the low blow. And it always kills me. It gives me vibes of Shinsuke Nakamura. I believe when he faced AJ Styles and he was doing the low blows. And it's I don't know what it is. I guess with low blows, if your arm stays there, I guess it's more power to the low blow or something. Because her arm stayed there for a bit. And I was like, okay, well, she, maybe she's smashing all the buttons or something like that. And I guess the longer that her arm stays there, the more power the low blow gets. So she low blows him. She gets Josh Alexander out of the zip ties. Josh Alexander, then I believe the one that hits Ray with the trash can. And then his wife picked up a chair, tossed it to Bully, who caught it, and then Alexander slammed a chair into Bully's chair that hit Bully's face. Now here's the spot that I thought was going to finish the match. Alexander had set up a ladder outside the ring, and he climbed it, and he splashed Bully Ray through the table. And I thought that would be the end of it, but Bully Ray had kicked out. And then Bully Ray kicked out. And then Alexander went and put Bully Ray in an ankle lock, and that was the finish. And I thought that was kind of weird that it would be the ankle lock that was the finish. Maybe it was storyline related. Who knows? But I thought it was pretty weird that it would be the ankle lock that would do it versus that big spot from the table. But I guess it probably is something more storyline, that the fact that he made Bully Ray tap versus putting them through the table. But I thought it would be cool for this, this full match, as crazy as it was with all the weapons and everything, for the finish to be with the splash from the ladder instead of the submission. So then we get to the 4-way tag team elimination match for the Impact Tag Team Championship. The Motor City Machine Guns versus Heath and Rhino versus Bullet Club versus the major players, which is Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. I love Motor City Machine Guns. This was a pretty good match, of course, which I knew it would be. Now, I could be wrong because I haven't really followed the Bullet Club all throughout their runs in Japan. But I thought that, Bullet Club was for the whole group. So I wasn't understanding why the team of Ace Austin and Chris Bay was just called the Bullet Club instead of them having an official tag team name. Like, if you want to mention the Bullet Club, to say Bullet Club, you can sit there and say, hey, insert team name here from the Bullet Club instead. Because, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you can let me know if I'm wrong, like if tag teams that belong in the Bullet Club are actually called Bullet Club. Because I know we have, like, the Young Bucks. I don't know if the OC was called the OC when they were outside WWE, but we have the OC. Like, we have different tag teams. We have the Elite as well. We have, like, different tag teams that I know was in the Bullet Club, but they're not called the Bullet Club. But maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, I am fans of Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I forgot what I was watching, but it had Ace Austin in it, and I was a fan of his. He had some big guy with him as well. I forgot the big guy's name. And of course, I've seen Chris Bay a few times as well, and I'm a fan of his. And I'm very happy that this came down to Motor City Machine Guns and Austin and Bay. There was a pretty good finish to it. But in the end, the Motor City Machine Guns had retained the titles. So after that, we had Frankie Kazarian, who just comes out, and he is now he comes out and it's like, hey, what's Frankie doing in the Impact Zone? But he is now with Impact. He has signed a deal, and he wasn't really used in AEW anyway, so I'm sure he will get plenty of opportunity to be seen on TV with Impact. And that's kind of what's been happening with AEW, especially now we're entering in the years with all the people who originally signed with AEW. Now contracts are expiring. They're either going to get renewed or people going to leave or whatever. But now, I feel like people are going to get better opportunities somewhere else if they decide to go somewhere else. So here we have Frankie Kazarian, who is now part of Impact. So we'll see where it goes from there. So next up, we have the Impact Digital Media Championship. We have Joe Hendry, which I don't know what the gimmick actually is, but his theme song, I was cracking up with it. Like, I guess he is like an asshole type of like a life coach or something. Is that, I don't know if that's what his gimmick is actually supposed to be, but it's hilarious. And he was going against Moose. So this pay-per-view took place in Atlanta, and Moose used to play for the Atlanta Falcons, and so some of his former teammates was ringside. Now, the thing with Impact is their hard camera faces the entrance. And normally when you have like special guests or something like that, they're sitting ringside on the opposite of hard camera. So that, you know, if they're only out there just for the match, you see that they're only out there for the match. Now, during this whole time before this match, there was about 8 people sitting on, like, maybe 6 to 8 people sitting on the left side of the entrance when you see the hard cam. So when this match comes up, all of a sudden, there's like 6 more people sitting there. And of course, it was 4 of them was the former teammates of Moose, including Brian Finneran. Finneran, I believe it's pronounced. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But I know who he is. He used to be the wide receiver. I remember that name. I remember seeing that name. And when I saw him, I was like, this guy looks very familiar. Now, I can't say 100% sure if I was dabbling in Final Fantasy football around that time, but I do remember that wide receiver's name. Don't know why, but I remember that wide receiver's name during the time he played. But we had the former teammates there, of course, cheering on Moose and everything. And I found it funny. I didn't realize it right away. I believe it was around the Eddie Edwards, Jonathan Gresham match. I noticed the teammates were gone. Like, they clearly came ringside just to watch Moose wrestle, and then they left. I wish maybe, you know, have them somewhere where you can't clearly see that they were there just for the match and then they were gone. You would like to try to create the illusion that they were there the whole time because they really like Impact Wrestling or something. But obviously they didn't. So with this match, we had the weird finish where Moose initially, he had cheated to win. He did a low blow when the ref was turned, and so Moose had won the match. And then randomly we had Santino Marella, who comes out, who is now part of Impact, and he is now the new, I believe he said Director of Authority, and he came out and he restarted the match. And then from there, Hendry won the match from there to retain. So it's just like, okay. Sometimes wrestling companies can really do the whole, you know, restart the match. Sometimes they go overdo it. Now, I don't remember the crowd really react. Like, I know they reacted, but I don't think it was like the over the top reaction where we had to do the whole let's have the heel win. I guess Moose is the heel. Let's have the heel win. Let's have the champion lose the title by cheating, and then have someone come out and say, we're going to restart this match from the get-go. Anyway, but that's what we had happen here with the digital title. So I'm assuming that this feud is going to continue on. So after that, we had the number 1 contender match for the Impact Knockouts World Championship. We had Deonna Purrazzo, Killer Kelly, Taylor Wilde, and Masha Slamovich, who came out dressed as Freddy Krueger. And I was a little confused because I was like, I know it's Friday the 13th, but last time I checked, Freddy Krueger has nothing to do with Friday the 13th. There is a movie franchise called Friday the 13th, but the villain of that name is Jason Voorhees, and he wears a hockey mask. And she was not wearing a hockey mask. So I guess she was making the connection because Friday the 13th, you know, Freddy Krueger, whatever. So it's like, okay, whatever. This was a fine match. It was a bit short in my opinion, but it was a fine match. I'm not too familiar with, of course I know who Deonna Purrazzo was. And I think I know Killer Kelly. You probably might be cursing me out that I should know who Killer Kelly is. But she looked familiar, and the name Killer Kelly sounds familiar. But I wasn't really too familiar with the other two, unfortunately. But so I was kind of rooting for Deonna Purrazzo to win here. And there was some good spots here. There was the Purrazzo, and I think it was Wilde who had a double submission. It might have been, I don't know if it was Slamovich or Killer Kelly, but one of them, but they had a double submission on her, and then they started fighting each other. But then in the end, Slamovich had won, which I'm like, okay, we don't know who she's going to go against, but, I was like, okay, I don't know the storyline with it all, so I don't know if it was a good decision that Slamovich won or not. But I guess that's what happens when you don't consistently watch the product and you only watch the pay-per-views once in the blue moon. You don't know what's really going on. So then we get to the Falls Count Anywhere match. Now, throughout the night, they kept saying Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta. And it got me a little bit hyped because I'm like, okay, if they're saying if they keep exaggerating this anywhere in Atlanta, I'm assuming that we're going to get like a, not really a cinematic video, but we're gonna realize that they are in Atlanta somehow. However, we really didn't get that. So it started off with Rich Swann was going to get interviewed. The audio was messed up with this as well. And then Steve Maclin came out and attacked Swann. And then the referee just immediately called for the bell and the match started from there. And so they were backstage. They were kind of like in the drive-through entrance of the arena. And they kind of went to the pavement just a little bit. And then they started going back inside. There were some good spots with this. There was the spot where Swann had hit a cutter on the pavement outside, which I'm sure hurts like hell. There was Maclin who dove headfirst into the industrial bins as well. And I'm sitting here looking at Steve Maclin, which I'm looking at him. I was like, he looks so damn familiar. Come to find out, it's Steve Cutler from the Forgotten Sons. And I forgot about that. But yeah, the only issue I had with this match was the fact that it started in the entrance and then it ended up, the finish didn't end in the ring, but it was in the arena, I should say. They kept saying Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta, so I'm assuming that they were going to go to certain parts of Atlanta and have the match there. So I was kind of hyped for that. And then Raven was on commentary, and for me, it didn't really work. It didn't really work for me. Of course, I respect the hell out of Raven, but his commentary kind of didn't work for this match. But I did appreciate what they did with this match. I was just a little disappointed that they kept saying Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta, and the fact that they started outside and ended up in back in the ring basically, which I guess would be for the live audience. But if you're saying Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta, it comes with a bit of an expectation that this match probably will not end up anywhere near the ring. But in the end, we had Steve Maclin, who defeated Rich Swann. It seems like this is going to continue somehow as well. So then we get to Eddie Edwards and Jonathan Gresham. So Jonathan Gresham comes out in full gear. So I'm like, okay, well, he's obviously not losing. If you get the joke, of course, of what happened with him in AEW. Eddie Edwards, so you may laugh, and you probably will never be able to unsee it, but Eddie Edwards straight up gives me John Cena vibes. It's just the fact that it's the shorts with the knee pads and the sneakers. Like, that combination there, and the fact that he wears the hat sometimes. Like, especially when he was a face, he gave me straight up John Cena vibes. And now he's a heel. He doesn't really give me John Cena vibes too much, except for the gear. But yeah, sometimes I get it. And I say he kind of reminds me of like a discount John Cena. The female ref in this match was kind of pissing me off a bit because she almost got hit or at least knocked into a couple of times because she kept standing in the wrong spot. I believe I forgot what was about to happen. But Jonathan Gresham then goes to run for the ropes, but she was like right there. Or I believe one of them was slamming the other and she almost got hit or something. I think she almost got slammed on. So she was kind of like pissing me off because she kept getting in the way. Like I said earlier, this was the match where I noticed that the Falcons players were completely gone from the match. Like that we went from having 12 people sitting over there to now down to like 5 or 6. So, and I noticed with TNA, they have a very unique camera angle for their hard camera. So instead of their hard camera being, straight looking on from a little bit above the ropes like you would see with AEW and WWE, their cameras are a little higher up. So during this match, we know that Jonathan Gresham is shorter than a lot of people. But with this unique camera angle that Impact does, where it's looking down a bit instead of looking straight ahead, Jonathan Gresham and Eddie Edwards look like they were almost the same height. Unless a little bit like there was some camera angles. If you switch the camera angles to a cameraman ringside, then yeah, you can tell that Jonathan Gresham was obviously shorter than Eddie. But from that hard camera, you couldn't really see it. But in the end, we had Eddie Edwards who defeated Jonathan Gresham by pinfall, which I was pretty surprised about. I thought that Jonathan Gresham was going to win here. But then we had the lights go out. There was a little bit of thunder, and the fans started chanting PCO. So PCO is back. And I'm also looking at PCO. If you don't know, I'm just looking at PCO like I should know who this person is. And come to find out, he was part of the Quebecers. If you don't know who the Quebecers are, it was a tag team way back in the early 90s in WWE. And I believe they were originally called the Mounties, but they didn't want, it was an issue with it because they were heels. And of course, normally the Mounties, are not heels in Canada. Of course, they're not bad guys in Canada. So I believe they had to change the name to the Quebecers at a certain point. I might be completely wrong. But anyway, so then the Quebecers had split up, and then PCO back then was repackaged as a pirate. Probably because in actuality he has an issue with one of his eyes. He probably told Vince McMahon that, and Vince McMahon was like, okay, you'll be a pirate. And so he repackaged as a pirate. The Quebecers mainly, I believe their main feud was with Bret Hart and Neidhart, maybe? I know it was definitely with Bret Hart. For some reason, it was with Bret Hart all the time. But yeah, he was repackaged as a pirate. He's excellent now. I am so happy for PCO, yo. So he was spitting out sand and stuff like that, holding the shovel. So I assumed he was buried somewhere. So I was like, I have to check out this video of what happened. I checked out the video. I really like Impact / TNA's, like the way they shoot things, especially when they're backstage. The camera is acting like a peeping Tom or something. But with this, very unique camera angle. Eddie Edwards should know that you don't just stack rocks on top of people if you're going to try to quote unquote bury. He should have had an subscription to Peacock. Watch the WWE footage of The Undertaker Buried Alive matches, and it will teach you how to properly bury someone. Now, of course, it was normally The Undertaker who got buried alive, and he comes back. But normally it takes like a couple of months or something like that. He'll come back at you or something, but not everybody's The Undertaker. And I think PCO was able to come back because all he did was put rocks on top of him. Anyway, there was a pretty good video of PCO and Eddie Edwards. So now we have PCO back, and of course we are continuing the feud between Eddie Edwards and PCO as well. So then we get to the main event, Mickie James and Jordynne Grace for the Impact Knockouts World Championship title versus career. We had Mickie James, who spoke with Tara, aka Victoria, backstage. She was crying. She hugged Raven, had came and hugged her as well. It was a very elaborate situation going on here. Like, I truly thought that she was about to lose here. She had her family ringside. She had, this great entrance with other Native Americans and stuff like that. It was just like really like she was crying. Victoria kept crying. It was like, okay, she may actually be losing here. Now, this match was good, but there were some parts that I had an issue with. First of all, there was the spot where they kept doing the back-to-back pins. It was a little bit sloppy there. First of all, Jordynne Grace looks excellent. Wow. She looks great. And so this was a pretty good match between these two. There was the spot where Jordynne Grace had a submission on Mickie James and Mickie James tapped. Now, I tried to explain it away when I noticed it because the hubs watched it with me. And I was like, maybe she didn't tap 3 times. Because I know normally you're supposed to tap 3 times very quickly in order for the submission to happen. And I was like, well, maybe the ref didn't see it, but the ref was looking. And she tapped quickly at least 4 times. So she tapped. Even the commentators was like, hey, she tapped. But I guess, I guess we're not seeing things or something. I don't know. But this was a pretty much back and forth match between these two women. It was pretty long as well. I think this was the longest match on the card also. And in the end, Mickie James defeated Jordynne Grace with a tornado DDT, I think it was. And Mickie James is now the Impact Knockouts World Championship, which I was very shocked about. They definitely made it seem like Mickie James was going to lose and retire. Because the thought was, she, retire from Impact. She retired from wrestling, quote unquote, and then show up at the Royal Rumble. That's what I straight up thought was going to happen. But instead, no, she is now champion. And I'm very happy for Mickie James. Of course, I love Mickie James. I am in love with Mickie James. I believe she is the best. But overall for this pay-per-view, it was a good pay-per-view. Maybe if I knew the storylines a lot more or something like that, I would probably like this a lot more. I would give this pay-per-view a C. Like, I probably would give it a higher grade if I knew all the storylines and everything, and I'm watching Impact consistently on a weekly basis. And so I would so when I see who wins and stuff like that, I would know the reasons why. But just watching it, straight blind, basically, I would give it a C. There was some sloppy moments that happened here and there. The audio issues and stuff like that. And some of these camera shots that they were having as well, that I had a lot of issues with. So, before I go into the Royal Rumble, let me get a little bit into AEW. So, unfortunately, we had the passing of Jay Briscoe, which broke my heart. Because we had deaths in wrestling a lot with people who had drug issues or heart disease and stuff like that. People, not putting them down, but, it was people who were not really taking care of themselves. And so they died young. But when people die young and it's like something happened to them, like with this tragedy with Jay Briscoe, broke my heart. Especially the fact that his daughters were also in the car with him. It is very sad and very tragic. And my thoughts and prayers go out to that family. I didn't really look any further into the conditions of the daughters. I know that I believe it was back issues that they had with the two of them. But my goodness, it was so heartbreaking. And so that Dynamite, there was a graphic. There was, of course, wrestlers who wore armbands and everything like that in tribute. And they mentioned it towards the end of the show as well. And a lot of people was very confused as to why there was an actual tribute show that actually had to do with Warner Discovery, who did not want the Briscoes, mainly Jay Briscoe, on TV because of some, I believe it was tweets or something like that he made in the past. And so then it was announced that Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal requested to wrestle each other on what would have been Jay Briscoe's birthday. And they decided to make this into a tribute show, which I would say, as much flack Tony Khan tends to get, and I have called him a fan, and I had talked about, his management skills and stuff like that. I give Tony Khan the praise because for a network to suddenly change their mind and say, okay, we'll let Mark Briscoe be on TV. Yes, you can do a tribute show. Apparently, they were talked to. And then I believe, now I didn't verify if this is correct, so I didn't check my insider sources. But I think that Tony Khan spoke to someone over at Warner Discovery and was able to convince them to not only let Mark Briscoe wrestle, but to be able to give a proper tribute to Jay Briscoe. So kudos to Tony Khan for making that happen. And my goodness, I knew I was going to cry when Mark Briscoe was going to wrestle. But when Jay Lethal came out and you saw his eyes are bloodshot red and he was barely holding it together, that's when I was like, okay. The waterworks started coming. And then you see Mark Briscoe come out to their theme music and he's holding both titles and everything. I admire the hell out of, I wish I had the strength that Mark Briscoe had to have lost your brother, your tag team partner for decades, and to be able to have just the strength to come out on would have been your brother's birthday and be able to wrestle and, be out there with people who called your brother friends and stuff like that. It's amazing the amount of strength that Mark Briscoe showed that night. And I believe Mark Briscoe is allowed to be on Dynamite from now on, which, it is a shame that it took this for, the Briscoes to be able to appear on AEW TV. But I'm happy that we are able to see Mark Briscoe, on AEW Dynamite honoring his brother. It was a very impactful thing. I know that they put out a 3-hour YouTube chat video of a full-on tribute for Jay Briscoe. I have yet to really watch it. Not that I'm mentally prepared. I'm not emotionally prepared to watch it because I will just bawl my eyes out. I've had shocking deaths in my life, and to, be around someone, say hi to them and talk to them, stuff like that. And then just that instantly, that is it. So when stuff like this happen, it just takes me back to those moments when I got the phone call of someone passing and knowing I just spoke to this person the other day, and so right now, I know it's been a while since they put out that video, but maybe I'll watch it this weekend. Who knows? But right now, I wasn't mentally prepared to watch it. But I heard it's a very lovely tribute as well. So we are working towards AEW Revolution, which is coming in March. And so we're going to have MJF going against Bryan Danielson. And Bryan Danielson has to go against 1,600 people in order to get a shot at MJF at Revolution. We also have Hangman Page fighting against Jon Moxley, of course, with the rivalry between these two ever since they faced each other the first time. And Hangman Page got a concussion from there as well. Dynamite, like I said, with the new look and everything, it has been pretty good these past few weeks. There has been a slight improvement. I'm a fan of Konosuke. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I forgot how to say, I forgot his full name, but I'm a big fan of his. I know he is supposed to be fighting MJF next week as well. I'm here for it. So let me get into the Royal Rumble. And, you know, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions for the Royal Rumble, which I will get into after this review. So, of course, with my prediction, of course, we knew who was going to win this. It was just a matter of who was going to be the final person that he would eliminate. And that would be Cody Rhodes, who we all knew was going to win. The thing that I didn't understand for people didn't, like, for some reason, didn't like the pay-per-view because they felt as though it was quote-unquote predictable. Well, I'm like, well, you guys were wanting Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble since he left. So if anything about being predictable, it would go to the fans. Because y'all the ones that asked, pretty much begged Papa H to put Cody Rhodes as the winner of the Royal Rumble and take the title from Roman Reigns. Maybe I forgot or something like that. But starting off, we had Pat McAfee who came back, and Michael Cole went crazy. And he was so happy. He didn't even know that Pat McAfee was coming back. And it was the cutest thing ever. Michael Cole was so happy about it. Just genuine pure joy for him. So then we get into the Royal Rumble. So we start off with Gunther as number 1. And then I was like, ooh, Sheamus should be number 2. And who comes out as number 2? Sheamus. Chef's kiss to it. So let's go through this list of people who came out. So number 3, we had The Miz. Of course, The Miz got a Miz. Then we had Kofi Kingston who came out. Number 5 is Johnny Gargano. We had Xavier Woods. Then we had Karrion Kross, which I slightly popped for when the screen turned black and white. I slightly popped for that. After that, we had Chad Gable. Then we had Drew McIntyre. We had Santos Escobar, Angelo Dawkins. And then we had Brock Lesnar, who came out, stood toe-to-toe to Gunther. And then out comes Bobby Lashley. Then we had Baron Corbin, Seth freaking Rollins. We had Otis. And then we had Rey Mysterio's music hit, but he didn't come out. And then comes out Dominic Mysterio with a mask, obviously from Rey Mysterio. We were assuming at that point that Dominic Mysterio took out Rey Mysterio. Would have loved to see like a clip or something like that showing that happening, but I guess, we thought of it last minute. Then we had Elias. After that, we had Finn Balor. Then we had Booker T, who lied during the pre-show, talking about I wish I had a ticket. I want to be in the Royal Rumble, but they didn't say anything to me. Wah, wah, wah. But he was in the Royal Rumble. Looking jacked as all hell, of course. So after that, we had Damian Priest. Then we had Montez Ford. And then we had a returning Edge who came out. Then we had Austin Theory. First of all, of course, when Edge comes out, you automatically sing his theme song. So after that, we had Austin Theory. We had Omos. We had Braun Strowman. Then we had Ricochet. Then at number 29, we had Logan Paul, which was, pretty surprising. We have to set up the WrestleMania stuff here. And then at number 30 was Cody Rhodes, which I was slightly upset about because I'm like, why we have Cody Rhodes coming out in number 30? Like, we already know he was coming back. Normally, number 30 would have been is normally a surprise. It would have been cool if number 30 was Logan Paul. That would be cool. But nope, it had to be Cody Rhodes because no one else is going to get the attention except for Cody Rhodes. So, going through the Royal Rumble, a lot of people were a bit upset for this men's Royal Rumble because there weren't a lot of surprises. There were no NXT call-ups, which I was surprised about. I thought there would be a few NXT people. And I thought there would be maybe some Hall of Famers as well, some surprises and stuff like that. But then I realized, and then people was like, oh, it was more last year's Royal Rumble was better than this year. And I'm like, excuse me, do y'all not remember what happened last year? Last year's Royal Rumble was pretty much with the roster. There were not a lot of Hall of Famers or NXT people in last year's Royal Rumble that I remember. What I appreciated about this Royal Rumble, and, you know, people tend to forget because, you know, that's kind of what happened. But with last year, I mean, we had Bad Bunny and Johnny Knoxville who came out. But other than that, and we had Shane McMahon. But other than that, it was mainly the rest of the roster that was there. So you had, 3 people who came in that were either celebrities or, well, you can't really call Shane McMahon a Hall of Famer. But you had 3 people who, you know, were surprises. This year, I mean, you had Logan Paul, you had Booker T, you had a returning Edge. But what I appreciated about this year's Royal Rumble is that it served the purpose of what it's supposed to do, and that is to set up the feuds that will lead to the Royal Rumble. I mean, the WrestleMania. And that's what this Royal Rumble did, is set up the feuds for WrestleMania. So we had the feud now, Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. We are setting up, of course, the situation with Finn Balor and Edge. We also set up Dominic and Rey Mysterio as well. We even had a little thing of Logan Paul and Seth Rollins. Logan Paul eliminated Seth Rollins. We also had we had Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross. We had Gunther and Sheamus again as well. So it's like we were setting up things. And then we had Omos and Braun Strowman. So we were setting up stuff that could potentially lead to either the Elimination Chamber or to WrestleMania. So this Royal Rumble served its purpose. And then, of course, we had Cody Rhodes in the end win. A lot of people were kind of like a bit upset about Cody Rhodes winning and the way he won. First of all, I forgot. Rey Mysterio was actually injured, so that's why they didn't do anything. But I would have wished they had done something that would indicate that they were attacked or something like that. But, you know, it is what it is. And some people didn't like the way that it went down towards the end. First of all, there was a bit of a fake out because they made it seem like Logan Paul was eliminated, but he wasn't. He was just on the outside. So we had a final 4, but then, of course, Logan Paul comes in and eliminates Seth Rollins. And then Logan Paul gets eliminated by Cody Rhodes. And so then we're left with Gunther and Cody Rhodes. So people had a slight issue with this face-off between Cody and Gunther because they was like, Gunther has been in the Royal Rumble since number 1. Cody Rhodes is number 30. Cody Rhodes should be able to have more ability to fight Gunther than Gunther fighting Cody Rhodes, because Gunther should be a bit tired from having to be in the Royal Rumble for over an hour. But I was like, no, because the thing with Cody Rhodes wrestling, and yes, I have a slight bias with Cody Rhodes, but I will explain it again. The thing with Cody Rhodes is he has to play the underdog babyface. It's something that he does in a lot of his matches. And with this face-off between Gunther and Cody Rhodes, Gunther was constantly slapping his chest, stuff like that. And Cody had to play the role of, you guys know I just came back from surgery on my pec and he keeps slapping it. How can I do it? And he actually hawked up at a certain point. Ended up eliminating Gunther, and so Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble, which we all knew was going to happen because everybody wanted it and was calling for it when Cody Rhodes was after the Hell in a Cell match with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So everyone was saying, Triple H, you have to have Cody Rhodes win the Royal Rumble and go and defeat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So don't sit here and tell me, oh, it's predictable, wah. No, that's what everybody knew was going to happen because that's what everyone said wanted to happen. I didn't say I wanted it to happen. I just know that's what was going to happen. I'll get to Cody in a moment, but I'm going to continue with the matches. So then we had the next two matches actually, and they were very, very short. And I know it was because of the Royal Rumbles, because both Royal Rumbles went over for an hour. And then we had a music performance that no one asked for, and it was put very weirdly before the main event, which made 0 sense. Whatever, you wanted to be a bathroom break, I guess, but very bad placement of where that performance went, of someone that no one knows who they are. So then we had the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, which I didn't know what it was going to be. I was really hoping that it wasn't going to be like lights out, everybody pull out your cell phones, boom, dead batteries everywhere. I was hoping it wasn't that. I didn't expect for this to turn into a Naomi match, the Feel the Glow match, Naomi back to WWE confirmed match or something like that, you know what I mean? So Bray Wyatt comes out, first LA Knight comes out, then Bray Wyatt comes out and everything like that. And I was missing like all the little details. I have to remind myself that when it comes to Bray Wyatt, we have to like pay attention to like the itty bitty details. Because I completely missed that the Firefly Funhouse puppets were out there during his entrance. So then the lights go out, and it's a pitch black, but with the it's actually a black light match. It was the Feel the Glow match, like I said. And so LA Knight, of course, was wearing yellow, but that made his trunks and everything glow. Bray Wyatt, as much of a creative individual he is, he was wearing this crazy ass face paint that glowed. And I was like, I feel concerned for the crowd that was in the arena if they were able to like really see this match clearly. But it was a lot of weird stuff that happened during this match. And it wasn't like he was like I wasn't like intrigued. I just didn't know what the fuck was going on. And why are we doing this? Like, I guess on paper, this match was pretty cool. Of course, Mountain Dew paid for this sponsored match. But, when WWE do these sponsored matches, man, you gotta roll the eyes. And then, of course, they knocked into the announcer's table. And it was like, I don't even know what the hell it was. I don't know if it was like radioactive liquid or something like that. Like, if you ever played Streets of Rage or something like that, like those barrels of radioactive stuff, or like ooze or something, like radioactive stuff, or acid or stuff. That's what it looked like spilled off of the announcer's table onto the floor. I didn't know what it was. But in the end, it was a very short match. Of course, Bray Wyatt defeated LA Knight. Ironically, with this feud, listen, I said from the beginning, this feud wasn't going to work as far as the first feud for Bray Wyatt. I was like, first of all, it's the first feud for Bray Wyatt. He can't lose. But this is the first feud for LA Knight since he became LA Knight. And I'm like, he shouldn't be losing. And unfortunately, because this situation with Bray Wyatt and whatever he is and what he's doing, it's playing out very slowly. And it seems like people don't really have the patience to see what's going on. Because details are being revealed, but they're not being revealed fast enough, especially now that we are in WrestleMania season. Like, by now, we should know who Bray Wyatt is and what this Wyatt 6 or whatever is and what Uncle Howdy is. And now we're working towards who Bray Wyatt is facing at WrestleMania. That's what it feels like. But we have to do this. They did how many weeks of these QR codes and he's coming and the White Rabbit and stuff like that. We can wait a few more weeks to find out more details of who Bray Wyatt actually is. Bray Wyatt and LA Knight were fighting and stuff like that. Bray Wyatt slammed LA Knight into like a stack of boxes and stuff like that. And then, of course, they had this weird camera angle. And you knew that Uncle Howdy or somebody was going to jump from this high up onto LA Knight. What we didn't expect was for Uncle Howdy who was the person who jumped off the tower onto the boxes below, was to completely miss, clearly, LA Knight before part of the stage set on fire, whatever. And then the Firefly Funhouse puppets appeared. And you still don't know what the heck is going on, because you see Bray Wyatt being Wyatt Family Wyatt, and then he's Firefly Funhouse, and now he is the new Bray Wyatt. But then we still have the Firefly puppets still popping up, so I don't know what's going on here. But what's happening, though, with this feud is that the fans are slowly turning towards liking LA Knight, which really isn't a good thing for Bray Wyatt, because it's like, bro, you just returned. You had all this hype and all this love from all these fans, and now they're slightly turning on you. So then we get to the Raw Women's Championship match. We had Bianca Belair going against Alexa Bliss. This was also another short match as well. I mean, I knew that Bianca Belair was going to win here. We had Alexa Bliss, who attempted a Sister Abigail on Bianca Belair, and then Bianca countered it, of course, and with the kiss of death, KOD, and retained her title. And then after that, we had a video package that played on the Titantron, of course, of Alexa Bliss and everything like that, when she was Psycho Killer Alexa Bliss. And that was the end of that. It was another short match, which I was like, okay, I guess we're trying to get through all these so we can end at a decent time, which we did not. So then we get to the women's Royal Rumble. So going through, we had Rhea Ripley, who started out number 1, aka Mommy, which we all had as a winner, who we predicted would win. Then we had Liv Morgan, because you only live once. And Liv Morgan decided she wanted to be out there number 1. But of course, it went to Rhea Ripley, but Liv Morgan got number 2. And then we had Dana Brooke, which is like, okay. And then we had Emma. Then we had Shayna Baszler. Then we had Bayley. Then we had B-Fab. She was eliminated pretty quickly. But, kudos to her for, her 30 seconds in the ring. And then we had Roxanne Perez, which I was happy about, that we had an NXT here. And then we had, as Bayley was getting attacked, then we had Dakota Kai and then Io Sky come out to help out Bayley, which, I like that we are setting up things. And then we had Natalya, who I think was returning at that point. And to be 100% honest, and this is going to sound very sad, I didn't even realize that she was gone. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. Sorry, Natty. Then we had Candice LeRae come out in number 12, and then we had Zoe Stark, which I was so happy about. I was happy that we had some NXT people come out. Then we had Xia Li, and oh my god, I love Xia Li as well too, and wow, she looked awesome. Then we had Becky Lynch, who came out in number 15. Then we had Tegan Nox. We had Asuka, a returning Asuka at number 17. She had a new mask on. She had this lion mask and everything like that. And of course, she gets into the camera, and I was like, if she has on the kind of clown face, I'm going to flip my shit. And she did. And I was so happy. And I thanked Triple H, of course, because Papa H does for the fans, yo. And I'm so happy. I didn't watch her stuff when she was the Kana or the Psycho, when she had that face paint on, but I know what it is. I know what that is. And I didn't watch the matches, stuff like that, but I've seen enough of some stuff to know that I will like that, please. I will like that double, and I would like it to go immediately. Thank you. And then at number 18, we had Piper Niven. She got her name back, ladies and gentlemen. Papa H coming through again for the people. She is no longer Dewdrop. She has a name, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not fucking Dewdrop anymore. So kudos to her for that. And then we had Tamina, who came back as well. All right. Cool. And then number 20 was Chelsea Green, which I'm like, okay. Her husband, first of all, psyched this out. He posted a photo on Twitter or Instagram showing some gear. And I was like, oh, are you about to woo your way into the Royal Rumble? But nope, it was his wife. She was eliminated immediately. Apparently, she set a record for fastest Royal Rumble elimination, which I actually thought that went to Ivory last year. Like, I could have sworn we already had this happen, but I guess not. But I thought that Ivory was eliminated. But apparently this goes to Chelsea Green for fastest elimination, which I think was like 5 seconds or something like that. And then we had Zelina Vega, and she was cosplaying. I forgot what she cosplayed as, but, always shout out to Zelina Vega for holding it down for us nerdies out here. And then we had Raquel Rodriguez, which, we saw a bit of a showdown between her and Rhea as well. We had Mia Yim, but her name is Meacham, I think it is officially. I think that's what they're, like, officially calling her, which, all right, okay. And then we had Lacey Evans at number 24. So now she's a heel, too. And I guess she's an evil version of Sergeant Slaughter, which I did say she should have been. But I would like to see how this plays out. And then at number 25, we had Michelle McCool, who was ringside with her daughters. And she was like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta go in. And she took off her jacket. She was already wearing gear and Uggs. And she goes in and she wrestles. And shout out to her, because she lasted for a bit here. And even got some eliminations as well. And then at number 26, we had Indy Hartwell. And I was so down because I was like, damn, we could have had a reunion with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. But unfortunately, Candice LeRae was eliminated a little early with Io Sky, which we could potentially have a bit of a face-off, later on at Elimination Chamber or something like, or even WrestleMania between these two. So after that, number 27, we had Sonya Deville. Number 28 was Shotzi. Number 29 was a psychotic, from NXT. Well, she was not. Let me reword this. Number 29, we had Nikki Cross, and it's the psycho Nikki Cross that we had when she was in NXT. Nikki wants to play Nikki Cross. And then number 30, which was completely botched. She's not like most girls. Didn't even get the countdown started before they hit her music. They were just so excited. They were so excited backstage for this return that they hit the music first before they hit the 10-second countdown. That's what I was trying to say. And it was Nia Jax, which we heard she may have been returning, but she's not like most girls. And she comes in, and like I said, leave number 30 for a neat surprise. She didn't last that long. She was only in there for about 3 minutes or whatever, and she got eliminated. Now, is she officially back with WWE? Who knows? But we had this crazy moment with the Royal Rumble, and she got eliminated. And shout out to Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan they lasted for over an hour. Started out as number 1 and 2, and they were the final 2, actually. And along with Asuka, of course, because Asuka is awesome. So, of course, like I said, this was a fun Royal Rumble here. In the end, we had Rhea Ripley. Now, it was for a moment, as soon as I saw the clown makeup, I was like, oh, Asuka for the win, Asuka for the win, Asuka for the win. Because then, of course, the dirt sheets was sitting there like, no, change of plans. They're saying that there's going to be a first 2-time winner of the Royal Rumble. At which I'm like, okay, Asuka for the win. Asuka for the win. But no, we had Rhea Ripley win, which I'm very happy about. Shout out to Rhea Ripley. I am very happy for her. Because we had what? We had Ronda Rousey win last year. We had Bianca Belair. the year before that. I think the first one ever. No, I think then it was Charlotte. And I think the first one ever was Asuka. Because no one's ready for Asuka. And we also had Becky Lynch win one as well. So, of course, the dirt sheets was sitting there like, no, it's going to be we're going to have a first 2-time women's winner. Nope, it was Rhea Ripley who won. And I was hoping that she was going to pick Bianca Belair to go against at WrestleMania, but she picked Charlotte Flair because Charlotte Flair was the one that took the NXT championship from her when Charlotte won the Royal Rumble and decided to go after the NXT championship because, you know, who needs another title on her belt? Now she got to go after the NXT championship, I guess. And then we had the main event. Roman Reigns going against Kevin Owens with Sami Zayn ringside. Now, this was an interesting match, of course. You know, the match flowed very nicely and everything. We had a lot of back and forth between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. At a certain period during the match, we had Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, ask Sami Zayn to get a chair. And Sami Zayn sat there and kind of like hesitated for a bit before he handed the chair to Roman Reigns. And then Owens did a stunner and everything like that. And then we had Sami Zayn was trying to distract Owens from there as well. But then, of course, Roman Reigns sat there and won. I believe he did like 2 or 3 spears on Kevin Owens in order to get the win. But that's not the big concentration of this match. The big concentration of this match is what happened after the match. And that was the rest of the bloodline comes out to celebrate with Roman Reigns. And then they started attacking Kevin Owens. And Sami Zayn was sitting there watching. They handcuffed Kevin Owens to the ropes. And then the Usos were sitting there giving him super kick after super kick after super kick. And it was just like, woo, kind of brutal. Because, you know, normally when you get super kicked, you're able to kind of like protect yourself so you don't get slapped straight in your face with a foot. But unfortunately, when you can't defend yourself because you are handcuffed to the ropes, you can't fucking defend yourself. And we had Roman Reigns who went and picked up the chair, and he was going to hit Kevin Owens, slap in the head with the chair, and in steps in Sami Zayn. And he's trying to tell Roman Reigns, you know, hey, you don't have to do this. You are above this. You don't need to stoop down or anything like that. And then Roman Reigns kind of put the chair down, lowered the chair, I should say. And then he hands the chair to Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn hesitated. And Roman Reigns told Sami to hit Kevin Owens with a chair to prove your loyalty to us. Because, you know, Sami and Kevin Owens are boys. They go way back. And so Sami Zayn took the chair, and you see him like thinking about it. He's hesitating and everything. And Roman is sitting there talking shit to his face, sitting there mugging him and stuff like that. And then Roman turns and starts getting to Kevin Owens' face. And then it happens. And Sami Zayn took the chair and hit Roman Reigns in the back, just like the Shield when Seth Rollins hit Roman Reigns in the back with the chair as well. And if I am not mistaken, Roman Reigns sold Sami Zayn's chair shot the same way he sold Seth Rollins' chair shot. The chair shot of betrayal, I guess we would call it. And then the Usos look surprised. Jey Uso's looking shocked. Sami Zayn immediately turns to Jey Uso and starts apologizing to him. And Jey Uso was sitting there. I mean, Jimmy Uso was like so upset, straight super kicked Sami Zayn. And then they beat them down. They beat down Sami Zayn. And then next thing you know, you notice that Jey Uso is sitting in the corner. And Jimmy is sitting there telling him, like, yo, beat him up. You know, he is not blood. He turned on us, stuff like that. And Jey Uso got out the ring and left. And Reigns, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa, along with Paul Heyman, left the ring. And Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn was laid out. The crowd chanting, "Fuck you, Roman." Of course, Cody Rhodes is probably in the back, you know, sitting there, clapping his hands, is so happy that the fans turned on Roman Reigns so that he can slide up in there and get a title shot while getting cheered. But this segment with the Bloodline was definitely such a great segment, first of all. There were some people who were saying best segment, best storyline of all time, which I kind of disagree with. I went through like top people. Some people like don't, you know, kind of new to wrestling who may say this is the best storyline of all time. First of all, the best storyline of all time will always be Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. You can't top that because that's what put WWE on the map for the Attitude Era. You can't deny that. So this was one of the best stories that WWE generated themselves, not the stories that the fans themselves kind of forced, you know, into, like Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston and Becky Lynch. But as far as storylines that WWE created themselves, especially in recent years, this is one of the best compelling storylines. One of the best compelling storylines. It's just the type of levels to this story that was so detailed and like a lot of callbacks to what originally happened. Like Jey Uso was the last one to accept Sami Zayn into the bloodline, and he was the first one to defend Sami Zayn to the point that he potentially turned his back on his own blood and his day one Uso for Sami Zayn. And Jimmy Uso, who was the first one to accept Sami Zayn, was the first one to defend his bloodline for him. And Roman Reigns, who sat there and said that, you know, he was panicking because he thought Sami Zayn was trying to take his spot and everything. And it was just such a compelling storyline. And now the issue is we have such a great storyline between Sami Zayn, the Bloodline, and Roman Reigns. And it's like, this story has to be addressed. But we have Cody Rhodes in the wings sitting there like, hey guys, I'm going to win the title. Just to let y'all know at WrestleMania. Like, the final shot is going to be me holding up the title. But the thing is, they're going to Canada. They're going to Montreal, Canada, for the Elimination Chamber. And as we saw at SmackDown, we had Sami Zayn challenge Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber. And then it looks like Roman Reigns accepted the match. Don't know if it's for the title. I'm sure for Cody Rhodes' sake, Cody Rhodes wants this to be a non-title match. Because it's just a lot. It is a lot of pressure. Because Sami Zayn is on fire right now with this storyline. And Roman Reigns has all the belts. And this is taking place in fucking Canada. And Sami Zayn was hot. Did y'all hear the pop that Sami Zayn got when he attacked Roman Reigns on SmackDown this past Friday? Did you hear the pop? Sami Zayn is hot as hell. Sami Zayn is as hot as a sinner in church, man. And it's a good problem to have because you have a lot of ways this can go. We know the way it's going to end up, unfortunately. I don't know how this is going to look. I don't know how this is going to look because it's just like what happened last year. With the story between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns when we had the Royal Rumble match. That they had to do this as a one-off finish to a compelling storyline of Seth Rollins always talking about how I get in your head, this, that, and the third, Roman Reigns, stuff like that. And Seth Rollins came out with the Shield entrance, with the Shield theme and the Shield gear, and straight up trolling Roman Reigns. But unfortunately, it was a one-off match that came at the wrong time because this was supposed to be, I believe it was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar again for the title. And what we're getting here is we have such a compelling storyline between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. And we have one pay-per-view before WrestleMania with Cody Rhodes wanting to challenge Roman Reigns for the title. But you have to address this story between Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns, which we have seen from SmackDown is going to happen at Elimination Chamber. And unfortunately, I'm hoping that this isn't a one-off thing to finish a storyline that if you really get into it, this storyline started between Jey Uso and Roman Reigns when they started the whole acknowledge me stuff. Because that's when Jey left the bloodline, that's essentially a callback to all the shit that he went through with Roman Reigns. And the way that Roman treated Sami Zayn in order to be initiated into the bloodline is very similar to the way Roman treated Jey Uso when he wanted to be acknowledged. So this is years in the making type of storyline. And I really hope this isn't going to be a one-off finish with Sami Zayn at the Elimination Chamber because we have to address Cody Rhodes winning the title. Now, this can go kind of badly for Cody Rhodes because Cody Rhodes loves to get cheered. It is possible that fans are not going to like the fact that Sami Zayn doesn't get a title or a title shot because we have to give it to Cody. We've seen this plenty of times before of fans wanting someone to get a title shot. They don't get the title shot because this person gets the title shot and then that person gets booed mercifully, really badly from the fans because that's not who they want as the number one contender. So we'll see how it goes. Now, to address the Cody Rhodes thing. So I have respect for Cody Rhodes. I'm not a fan of Cody Rhodes. And I don't know Cody Rhodes personally. I only go by what is presented to me on TV between WWE and AEW from Cody Rhodes and the promos he cut and stuff like that. Now, when Cody Rhodes was in AEW, starting out, Cody Rhodes was a very good babyface. The match between him and Dustin, the feud between him and Brody Lee were very good. He is, and I've said it before, he is very good as far as playing the underdog babyface. The issue is that when you play an underdog babyface, and we've seen this with Roman Reigns himself, you could only be an underdog for so long. Once you are no longer an underdog, you can't underdog anymore. You're already at the top of the mountain. Like, there's no one pushing you down because you're at the top. And the thing with Cody is that he constantly wants to be John Cena, I guess I should say. But even John Cena was booed. But not even John Cena. I guess John Cena mixed with Daniel Bryan. Like, he wants to be the top babyface that, in his head, gets cheered and stuff like that. You know what? It just hit me. Maybe more like his dad, where he gets cheered and stuff like that. And, because his dad is a hardworking man, the underdog story and stuff like that. And I think he just wants to capture that feeling of being the top baby, but instead wants to be the top baby face, but is the underdog. And an issue that I had when Cody Rhodes was in AEW is that when you have the power of the booking as well, you wanting to be the constant underdog baby face comes at a cost. And it happened when he went against Anthony Ogogo. And it really should have been Anthony Ogogo that won the match, but it was Cody who won. And then I've come to realize, like, Cody, and I was trying to think of, like, the best comparison as far as what comes to Cody. And Cody reminds me of politicians during election season. They'll say all the right things, you know, and everything. They'll do whatever it takes to get you to like them. And that's how I feel with Cody. He wants to be the baby face and be liked and cheered and stuff like that so much. Like, willing to do whatever it costs to do it. Literally putting his body on the line. So, in my opinion, Anthony Ogogo should have won the feud between him and Cody. Whatever. Then, of course, the issue that people had, because Cody was, like, so high up as far as between the EVPs and stuff like that. Like, he took his EVP position seriously. So people was like, well, you're going to book yourself as champ. And he immediately says, I'm never going to challenge for the title. And then he gets mad because he can't challenge for the title. And then eventually what happened is he was giving Highlander vibes from the boys of this, like, good person, stuff like that. But deep down inside, like, you're an evil motherfucker. But unfortunately, and people was like, well, maybe he's like a delusional babyface or something like that. But no, it was like, no, he seriously wants to be a top underdog babyface. And fans got tired of it because it's like, dog, you can't be top underdog babyface all the time. And he didn't like that. He started doing, like, crazy stuff, like the whole flaming table spot, which I'm like, you didn't need to do that. Like, you didn't need to do that. While, yes, you got this spot, people, like, cheered for it and stuff like that, fans eventually went back to the whole booing. He should have turned heel. But then he started saying how, if I'm not mistaken, that he didn't want to turn heel because he didn't want his daughter and stuff like that to see him heel and stuff, even though she could easily Google Stardust and watch the footage there, or dashing Cody Rhodes and see that footage as well. You know, turning heel doesn't really hurt people that much. If you play the heel the right way, eventually it works. You know, you do what you need to do and you go back to being a babyface. But the issue with Cody is that he wants to be top babyface all the time. And the whole situation with him and the fallout with AEW and him leaving, I didn't like that. Especially him going to WWE. I didn't like that at all. You know, of course, everyone thought that he was going to come back as Stardust. No one was 100% sure of how he was going to come back. I didn't like the way that he left. Because I'm like, you was like the face of pro wrestling. You was anti-WWE. But not only was he anti-WWE, but he created this chaotic atmosphere of anti-WWE with wrestlers in AEW who never been in WWE. And especially with the fans. And you was like, you know, pro wrestling and stuff like that, and this revolution and everything, but you wanted to be top underdog babyface so bad that you were willing to throw it away. He had a full, like, training school with students who were really involved with AEW. It was the Nightmare Factory and stuff like that. A lot of people, there were people who were coming out of that school and they were wrestling on AEW Dynamite. They're still there. You don't even see them like that anymore because Cody done fucking left. And it's like, not only you left for yourself, which, like, I could see, you know, I understand you want to do things for yourself, but when you decide that you want to create a whole revolution and stuff like that, and you're anti this and anti that, and then you turn around and say, psych, no, I'm not anti that. That's actually where I want to go. And then you kind of like put down the place that you helped create. I don't have a lot of respect for that. And so I'm thinking, okay, we don't know what he's going to be in WWE, you know, because Vince McMahon was there at that time. So when he came out at WrestleMania and he had the elevator and shit, and it was like the complete same thing, I was in complete shock that he was able to have that that he was allowed to have his full on gimmick, his full AEW gimmick and everything. I was completely shocked. And then, of course, I started noticing that this is the same motherfucker from AEW of the underdog babyface. Except for because it's WWE, underdog babyfaces do get cheered until they don't. So it was exciting, fresh new toy and stuff like that. But then he comes out twice a night with the pyro and everything like that. Which I'm like, your interest is a little bit more elaborate than the champion who's been champion for 700 days. But whatever. Then he's cutting the promos, and he cries during the promos like he normally does, stuff like that. But what I started to really notice is that we are doing the whole underdog babyface, which it gets tiring after a while because, like I said, you can only be the underdog babyface for so long. And people were starting to see it at this Royal Rumble, this whole underdog babyface thing that I said. Like I said. And then I found out today, Cody Rhodes was on the Logan Paul podcast. And he explained how he got the torn pec muscle. Because I was like, wow, he got it during training and stuff like that, or lifting, whatever. And he explained the story. If you didn't watch it, go and check it out. It's on YouTube. He mentioned how he didn't really work out for a while. Didn't properly warm up or anything. But it was only him and another guy. And he said that the guy was kind of like staring at him. And the guy was doing CrossFit and stuff like that. And so Cody decided to lift, I think he said 290 or something like that. No warm up, no anything like that. And he didn't even get a full rep in when his pec tore. I'm sitting like, bro, you're sitting here telling us that you tore your pec muscle clean off because you were ego lifting. You was lifting because you wanted to show off. You wanted to like put yourself over with the CrossFit guy that was in the gym. That probably, and the way he explained it, when there was a tear and the guy who was in there came over and was like, are you okay? Like really like concerned for him. And I'm like, bro, he probably wasn't even looking at you the way that he was looking at you. I know you can hear like the complete bias in my voice with this, but my issue is, and then I had a complete issue with him wrestling with the torn pec muscle because I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, I can see if it tore during the match and then you continue to wrestle, like we saw with Triple H. We seen it with John Cena and stuff like that. I could see of you wanting to finish the match, you know what I mean? But when you injured yourself and then somehow you were able to convince everyone to let you continue to wrestle with the muscle completely torn off the bone. I guess they gave him numbing shots or whatever. They did a quick cleanup fix and stuff like that. But obviously you required surgery. And he went and did a Hell in a Cell match. And I was sitting there, and if you listen to my review of the Hell in a Cell, my biggest complaint was how he shouldn't have wrestled that match. And I'm like, how much baby facing do you need to do? Like, you didn't need to do that. He really didn't need to do that. Well, yes, because he did that, everyone is saying that was the best match of the year and how he should win the title and all the other stuff from that. But bro, you didn't need to do that. You really didn't need to do that. And then we had, his return and stuff like that, which could have been a surprise, but, he wanted to announce that he was coming back and everything. And people are starting noticing with the Royal Rumble of how, when it was him and Gunther, how he, should have been a little bit more dominant with Gunther. Gunther was wrestling for a fucking hour. You are fresh. And he was doing the underdog baby facing again of Gunther slapping his chest. Oh, my chest, it hurts. How can I get over this? How can I win? Will I be able to win? Can Cody win? Tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. That's exactly what it felt like. And people were a little upset because they was like, they weren't understanding how Gunther was really able to get over on Cody. And I'm like, that's because that's what Cody does. Cody is the underdog babyface where he has to get beat down and he has to like hawk up. My thing is, this can only work but for so long. And I am so curious. I cannot wait because it happens to everyone. Everyone eventually turns heel. Everyone eventually gets booed. It has happened to everyone. Even though John Cena never turned heel, actually he started off as a heel. But once he turned, hustle, loyal, respect John Cena, they didn't turn him. But he got booed out of the building all the time. Eventually, Cody Rhodes is going to they're either going to turn him heel or the fans are going to get tired of him. And you can't even say Triple H or anything like that booking, because Triple H turned people heel in fucking NXT. Johnny Gargano eventually turned heel. We had Tommaso Ciampa, who eventually turned heel. Everyone eventually turned heel in NXT. So eventually they're either going to turn Cody heel because they have to put over the next babyface, or the fans will get tired of him and they will eventually start to boo him. Maybe not all the casuals, you know what I mean? But put them in the right city, he will start to get booed. And then we'll see what's going to happen from there. Now, if he responds to it differently, if he decides, yes, I will turn heel, I will be impressed. I will be impressed, and I will probably shut the fuck up about this whole situation with Cody. However, if he responds to this booing and everything with any type of attitude, because he is not being cheered and he is not the underdog babyface anymore, I'm just going to say I told everyone that this is what is presented to us. This is what Cody is in wrestling presented to us. I don't know how he is as an actual person, so I'm not going to come at his character or anything like that. But Cody Rhodes, the wrestler, is an egotistical maniac. That might be a little bit much, but he is egotistical and he wants everyone to cheer for him and like him. Now, maybe he'll completely be okay once he wins the title and everything and have his WrestleMania moment and everything. And he is the underdog babyface going against Roman Reigns and wins the title. And then once he does that, and he's talking about how he wants to bring back the wing belt and melt down the titles and bring back the wing eagle belt. Maybe after he does all that, then he'll be completely fine with turning heel. Maybe. But, however, I am so interested to see how he reacts when he is no longer the underdog babyface. And I'm curious to see how long this can keep up. Because that's what he constantly did in wrestling. And that's how people got tired of it. Because he constantly did the underdog babyface thing. And he constantly wanted to be the heel. The mistake that he made, and he probably won't have in WWE because they don't do this dream booking. But he started booking himself against people who normally gets cheered. When Malachi, actually it was Malachi Black. When Malachi Black appeared in AEW, they cheered for Malachi Black. But Cody Rhodes wanted to be cheered and wanted to be the babyface. And that was another time where the fans started to turn. Now, in WWE, it's always faces and versus heels. So we may not get a point where fans would straight up cheer for the heel. Even though we do get it, we were getting it for Seth Rollins when he was a heel. But however, if Roman Reigns comes back to being cheered the way that he was, I'm very interested to see how this is going to turn out. Now, maybe the booking and everything of this fallout with the bloodline will completely turn people against Roman Reigns. I don't know, because on SmackDown tonight, he was cheered. People put up the ones. There wasn't a loud chant of "fuck you, Roman" or anything like that. We'll see how this change after the Elimination Chamber, where we come down to Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. If people are still going to be like, I 100% support Cody Rhodes, and forget that they've been cheering Roman Reigns as champ for the past 800 days, we'll see how it goes. If I am proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. And I'll admit that I'm proven wrong. And then, like I said, I'll shut the hell up about Cody Rhodes. Like I said, I don't have a personal problem with Cody Rhodes. I don't like the wrestler that I see on TV. I feel as though, I don't like the way that he moved. Okay? If he didn't do half the shit if he didn't start half the shit he did in AEW with the throne breaking and all this other stuff and talking all the shit about WWE, I wouldn't have a problem with what he did. You know what I mean? If he, from the get-go, didn't create this whole I'm going to bring everyone up with me, and I'm going to pull everyone up to the top of the mountain with me, and then starts pushing people off the mountain because he wants to be on the top, and then got upset that he couldn't be on top, and then left because he couldn't get the money and be on top. If he didn't do all that, I wouldn't have a problem with the guy. But I just didn't like the way that he moved, okay? I just didn't like the way that he moved, and I don't like the fact that it's the same shit that we're getting in AEW. So I'm keeping the same energy that I had for him in AEW. He should have turned heel. The underdog babyface gets a little bit too much all the time. You can't do it all the time. That's what they did with Roman Reigns back in the day. They was making him the underdog babyface. And while, yes, the whole shoving down the throat, stuff like that didn't play well for others, I didn't like the fact that they kept making him an underdog babyface when he shouldn't be an underdog babyface. My issue with Cody Rhodes is that he does the underdog babyface too much. It shouldn't happen with every single match that you're in. Every time I see you, you shouldn't be doing the underdog babyface. Like, no. You can't do it all the time. So, I am like I said, very interested to see how this goes from here, as far as with Cody Rhodes. And we'll see how, Elimination Chamber goes and what WrestleMania matches come from there as well. I am hoping for Uso versus Uso. Please, Triple H, for everything that is good and pretty, give us Uso versus Uso. We have yet to get Uso versus Uso. And like I always say, with the exception of the Bella twins, normally sibling versus sibling, best friend versus best friend gives us the best feuds and the best matches. And I know Uso versus Uso at WrestleMania is going to give us so many chef kisses. I know we're going to pop for a lot of the craziest shit those two are going to come up with. And I hope we get it. And I hope I want it to be a very good long feud. And I know that we're getting close to, I know we're close to WrestleMania. I know that we are. I'm hoping this feud between Uso versus Uso goes past WrestleMania. Give it to us until SummerSlam. Don't give them the whole "I wish you died in the womb" type of shit. We don't need that. We want it to be better than the other twin feud that we had. We know it's going to be good. We know there may be a fucking spot where they super kick each other in the face. I know they're going to come up with some good stuff because they got time to practice. They got, they could practice with each other. Who is Solo going to choose? You know what I mean? You got your brother going against your brother. Maybe he does the Samoan spike to the both of them and say, fuck both of y'all too. Or maybe he says, I give my services to whoever wins the match. But I hope we get Uso versus Uso. And I don't want a one-off match. I want an actual feud. I want promos against them too. I want Rikishi to come out with a belt and threaten to whoop both his sons' ass if they don't get along and stop arguing with each other, because all he's trying to do is sleep and he's trying to do things for The Rock. I want Roman Reigns to, have a tribal meeting or something like that and sit at the head of the table and talk to both of them, you know what I mean? And tell them both to at least acknowledge him or something like that. I just want it all. That's all. That's what I really want. And I hope we get it, and I can't wait to see it. Oh, something I forgot to mention too. I hope Kofi Kingston is okay. Well, obviously he's okay because we saw him at the with the little questionable segment with the NASCAR situation. Which actually that probably was pre-filmed since Rey Mysterio was legit injured. So that may have been filmed before the Royal Rumble anyway. But that NASCAR segment, I tell you, these paid sponsor matches and segments are a doozy. But wow, it looks like we had another botch with Kofi Kingston, and it looks like this botch went horribly wrong. He was supposed to, it looked like the spot was supposed to be him landing on the chair and not having his feet touch the floor. But when he got thrown, I believe it was Gunther who did it. He overshot the chair, and it looked like he hit his head on the announcer table. And I thought legit one of his feet did not touch the floor because one of his feet was on the chair. And Michael Cole was trying to point that out as well, but he was actually officially eliminated. So I really hope he is okay. But yeah, overall, the Royal Rumble was pretty good in my opinion. I know that there were people who didn't really like it. They felt as though it was predictable and stuff like that. But this was a good showing of the actual roster. And that was the complaint that I had last year, is that we had the actual roster, but it wasn't booked correctly because it was so much concentration on just one person to win. Whereas though with this year, it was the roster, but we did set up a lot of good matchups between people. We also had setups for WrestleMania matches. I mean, the first two people who came out was Gunther and Sheamus. We could have easily had Gunther and Elias or something like that come out 1 and 2. But instead, we had Gunther and Sheamus. We had a nice little matchup between these two to start off. And then The Miz comes in and everything like that. We also had Edge coming back. We had Beth Phoenix coming back as well, looking amazing, to set up that feud, continue that feud with them and Judgment Day. So we had a lot of things going on, and I'm fine with it. I was fine with the way that the Royal Rumble was set up. And we even had on the women's side, we had the final two be, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, who did an excellent job during the Royal Rumble. We had Rhea Ripley, who had 70 eliminations, the most eliminations for the most eliminations in this Royal Rumble. And both Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan set new record of longest time spent in the Royal Rumble. I know it was Bianca Belair who set the previous record, but I believe she came out at number 3. Whereas though we had Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan come out at 1 and 2, and they ended up the final 2. So kudos to those two, and just kudos all around for this pay-per-view. Now, I was a little disappointed that the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match and the Women's Raw Championship match was very short. It is what it is. The Mountain Dew Pitch Black match was kind of confusing. I mean, I was cracking up. I was watching a watch along with, shout out to Clark Street Wrestling, Circle the Debate, oh my gosh, Top Rope Wrestling Talk as well. They were doing a watch along, so I was watching along with them, and we were cracking jokes, stuff like that, about the Mountain Dew Pitch Black as well. And so that made that match kind of a bit more funnier to take in. The finish of the match was more exciting than the actual match. If you hear a little bit of running around and a little bit of meowing, my girl cat Oreo decided this is the perfect time for her to act like a damn fool and run around the house. So apologies if you hear her in the background. But the aftermath of the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match was more interesting than the actual match, especially when Bray Wyatt put on the mask and stuff like that and looked even more creepy. But the best part, of course, of the Royal Rumble was the finish of the Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens match, where we had the breakup of the bloodline, with Jey Uso walking away because he's nobody's bitch. And then Sami Zayn, of course, attacking Roman Reigns with the chair. But it was a very good Royal Rumble. I am happy for the start of the WrestleMania season. Can't wait to see where this all goes. And where do we go with Elimination Chamber with Sami Zayn going against Roman Reigns? And where does Mr. Old Cody Rhodes fall into all this as well? But that's it for the Wrestlebread Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. It was a bit of a long one because it was a lot that we had to catch up on. You can follow me on Twitter at JDC137. That's JAYDE, the letter C137. I know I always sound like Jeff Jarrett every time I say that. You can also find the podcast on Twitter at Wrestlebread as well. Be sure to click the links in the bios on both profiles for the Instagram, the podcast Facebook page, and the YouTube channel as well. With this reboot, I am definitely trying to work on putting out more videos as well. I tend to record my episodes at various times, so that's why my episodes aren't really video right now. But I am working on maybe doing some more reactions. Also, I used to do like a mini video that I would put out once every 2 weeks or something like that, just my opinion on little things that's going on as well. I'm hoping to do a return of that. If you have any ideas of things you want me to see or even me to react to as well, I used to do reactions of matches that I never seen before and stuff like that. I may try to look into that again. I tried to do a reaction to something, but unfortunately when I went to upload it on YouTube, YouTube was like, no girl, you can't use any sound from this video. So I will continue to work and see what I can do. But thank you so much for listening. It is so good to be back. And until next time, guys,